Everything changed in a matter of seconds. Literally seconds. One moment, the Las Vegas Raiders are quietly, methodically working through the grueling, absolute furnace of the 2026 offseason. Look, we are talking about 115 degrees baking the asphalt in Henderson, Nevada. It's the kind of heat so oppressive, so unbelievably heavy, that you can actually feel the turf trying to melt right through the bottom of your cleats. The team is out there, deep in the dirt, sweating through every single drill, trying to piece together a massive, exhausting culture shift. And the next moment? Out of nowhere, a digital shockwave threatens to tear the entire franchise apart right down to its foundations, before the season even officially begins. Welcome to NFL Nexus. I am your host, and today we are breaking down the intense, high-stakes drama surrounding the 2026 Las Vegas Raiders. Before we uncover the actual truth behind these wild headlines, make sure you subscribe to the channel, like this explainer, and drop a comment down below with your thoughts. And hey, if you want to support the channel and help us keep making these deep-dive cinematic breakdowns, consider becoming a channel member. Okay, let's dive right into this, because what is happening out in the desert right now is nothing short of a psychological thriller. We're looking at a franchise desperately trying to rebuild its identity, and they are caught right in the middle of internet chaos, a ruthless obsessive rookie, and a looming regular season schedule that is going to take absolutely zero prisoners.
So the off-season is supposedly a time of hope, right? It's supposed to be a time for building chemistry in the locker room, installing complex schemes, and looking forward to the fall. But then, a notification drops. Kirk Cousins arrested following altercation involving a firearm. I want you to just imagine the collective gasp of Raider Nation in that exact second. The veteran quarterback, the stabilizing force brought in specifically to guide this transitional franchise, allegedly involved in a massive, catastrophic legal situation. The panic in the fanbase was instantaneous. Local sports radio stations in Vegas literally scrambled, cutting off their hosts mid-sentence to break into live programming. Fan forums instantly melted down. We're talking servers crashing under the sheer, unadulterated weight of the panic. And the implications were just staggering. Whispers of manslaughter allegations, firearms, a franchise leader potentially facing the sudden dark end of his entire career, all before throwing a single, solitary regular season pass in silver and black. In the modern NFL news cycle, a headline like this doesn't just make waves. It creates a massive tsunami. A wave that can drown a front office, paralyze a coaching staff, and completely fracture a fragile locker room in mere minutes. The tension inside the Raiders building was palpable. You could cut it with a knife. And the deafening silence from the organization, from the NFL front office, from major news outlets, and from local law enforcement, well, it only made the echo chamber that much louder. For hours, the entire football world simply held its breath, just waiting for the hammer to drop.
But then, the smoke finally cleared, and the entire illusion completely shattered. Hoax. Debunked. The source of the terrifying news wasn't actually the trusted NFL insider Adam Schefter. If you look closely at the handle on the original post, it reads @AdamSchefterW. It was a subtle, incredibly malicious typo, an extra letter tacked on the end, a swapped consonant right in the middle, perfectly designed to prey on a hyperreactive, constantly refreshing internet news cycle. It was a complete and utter fabrication. Let me be clear, there was no altercation, there was absolutely no firearm, there was no arrest. Kirk Cousins was, in reality, exactly where he was supposed to be the entire time. He was deeply immersed in the normal, grinding off-season schedule, taking his practice reps, studying his playbook, and adjusting to his new life in Las Vegas. But this exact moment, this near catastrophe of a news day, it serves as a chilling, sobering reminder of exactly how fragile stability truly is in the National Football League. We are living in an era of pure digital psychological warfare. One fake screenshot, one single blue checkmark impersonator. That is literally all it takes to derail an entire multi-million-dollar organization for an entire afternoon. It forces PR teams into total crisis mode, it pulls focus coaches out of critical film sessions, and it distracts the very players who need complete, unbroken focus just to survive in this ruthless league.
And you know, this whole situation brilliantly illustrates the two totally distinct worlds that NFL teams have to navigate on a daily basis in 2026. First, you have what we'll call the internet noise. The fake arrests, the viral chatter, the constant deafening roar of impersonator accounts, the clickbait articles, and the endless hot take podcasts. It is a fabricated world of distraction designed specifically to break a team's focus and generate outrage. But then, there is the football reality. And let me tell you, this is where the actual war is won and lost. The football reality is brutally, completely unforgiving. It doesn't care about X or Twitter or what's trending on your phone. It only cares about the 5 a.m. film study. It cares about the agonizing, freezing ice bath recoveries after full contact, high-speed drills. It cares about the grueling, sweat-soaked practices in the punishing Nevada sun, where every single step, every single pre-snap read, and every single foot placement is graded by a merciless coaching staff. The Raiders had to immediately block out that digital noise because, frankly, their reality inside the building is already fraught with immense, overwhelming pressure. They are in the middle of forging a completely new identity from the ground up. They do not have a single second to waste on internet fiction when the actual facts of their current roster are so incredibly exhaustingly demanding.
Because the reality of the Las Vegas quarterback room right now is an absolute masterclass in contrasting pressures. In one corner, you have Kirk Cousins. He is the stabilizing veteran force. Brought over after a stint with the Atlanta Falcons, his job is crystal clear: provide experience, manage the game, and steady the ship. His preparation is famously meticulous. We are talking about highly structured notebooks, years and years of ingrained muscle memory, and perfect throwing mechanics honed over a decade of taking brutal NFL hits. He is fighting tooth and nail to prove he still has total, absolute command of a modern NFL offense. But then, in the other corner, you have Fernando Mendoza, the #1 overall pick, the anointed future of the franchise. His game is built on raw, unrefined physical talent and a completely insatiable hunger to win. The stakes in this specific room could not possibly be higher. Mendoza is breathing right down Cousins' neck. He's carrying the weight of an entire franchise's expectations, not to mention billions of dollars in future revenue, squarely on his young shoulders. This isn't just some friendly training camp competition. No, this is a clash of eras. It is the seasoned, highly calculated general going up against the lethal, unpredictable, hyper-talented prodigy. And every single throw, every single pre-snap read in practice is being scrutinized under a massive microscope by a coaching staff that is utterly desperate for answers.
Which brings us to a defining, fascinating moment of this offseason. A moment that tells you absolutely everything you need to know about the psychology of the Raiders' anointed savior. Earlier this month, the NFLPA held its annual rookie premiere. Now, if you don't know, this is a mandatory sponsor event designed to connect the incoming class of NFL rookies with major brands, media partners, and the highly lucrative business side of professional football. For most rookies, this is a dream come true. Just picture the atmosphere for a second. The bright flashes of cameras going off everywhere, brand representatives in sharp suits offering massive, life-changing endorsement deals, young players forcing big smiles while holding up their newly minted trading cards. It is a massive, glamorous celebration of their arrival into incredible wealth and fame. But for Fernando Mendoza, being pulled away from the Las Vegas Raiders training facility to attend this glitzy, high-profile event wasn't a celebration at all. To him, it was a massive, agonizing distraction. It was precious time stolen directly from the only thing he actually, genuinely cares about.
The critical point here is captured perfectly in a quote he gave to SI's Gilberto Manzano while he was standing right in the middle of that very event. I want you to read these words carefully. Let them really sink into your mind. I'm going to be completely honest with you. I'd rather be practicing right now, and I was really upset about actually having to miss practice for this. He went on to clarify that while he knows it's a great moment and a privilege, he was deeply, profoundly bothered by his absence from the team facility. Think about the highly sanitized, carefully managed NFL media landscape we live in today. Rookies are intensely trained by PR teams to give polished, sponsor-friendly, totally generic answers. They're supposed to say how blessed they are. But Mendoza? He explicitly used the word upset. This is not normal rookie behavior, guys. This is visceral, genuine frustration bleeding right through the corporate facade. Fernando Mendoza, the #1 overall pick in the NFL draft, was literally seething. And why? Because he was losing valuable practice reps, because he was losing critical time in the film room, because he felt, in his core, that he was losing ground in the brutal, hyper-competitive reality of the NFL. This quote isn't just a passing, off-the-cuff comment to a reporter. It is a terrifying, bold declaration of intent to the rest of the league. When we actually map out Mendoza's actions over the past few months, a clear, almost frightening profile starts to emerge. Let's really break down this relentless drive, and let's not gloss over these specific details, because they matter. First, he skipped a White House visit. Let that sink in for a second. That is an honor most Americans, most human beings on the planet, would pause their entire lives for. A literal, formal invitation from the President of the United States. And why did he skip it? Because the cadence of his drop pack wasn't perfect yet. Because he flat out refused to miss a single Tuesday rep with the second-team offense. He was viscerally upset over attending mandatory events that literally put millions of dollars directly into his own pocket. He is determined to outwork absolutely everyone in that building, and yes, that includes the coaches, just to seize the starting role. The Raiders have essentially handed him the keys to the kingdom. They have already anointed him as the future face of the franchise. Yet, despite all of that security, Mendoza is operating like an undrafted free agent who is fighting for his absolute football life just to stay on the practice squad. He's made it abundantly, perfectly clear that if he doesn't start immediately over Kirk Cousins, it will absolutely not be because he was outworked. This level of obsession, this manic, tunnel vision dedication to the daily grind, it is incredibly infectious. And honestly, it is exactly what the leadership in Las Vegas was praying for when they drafted him.
Because this hyper-focused, utterly ruthless mentality, it aligns absolutely perfectly with the new regime's standard. Look, head coach Clint Kubiak isn't just installing a new playbook in Las Vegas. He is violently ripping out the old complacent culture and installing a totally new one from the studs up, a culture that requires total, uncompromising dedication and an unyielding work ethic. And Kubiak's specific offensive system requires exactly that kind of manic perfection to function. We're talking about an offense that is incredibly heavy on complex pre-snap motions designed specifically to reveal the defense's coverages. We're talking about intricate wide zone blocking schemes that require absolute perfect harmony between all 5 offensive linemen. It relies heavily on split-second timing, on precise mathematical footwork, and on the quarterback and the receiver seeing the field through the exact same set of eyes. When your number 1 overall pick is visibly furious about missing organized team activities just to learn this incredibly dense system, it sends a massive shockwave through the entire locker room. The veterans see it, the bubble players who are fighting tooth and nail for the last roster spots see it. Kubiak is effectively weaponizing Fernando Mendoza's obsession to establish a non-negotiable baseline of excellence. Think about it, if the rookie is willing to sacrifice everything, including a trip to the White House, just for an extra rep, what possible excuse does a 5th-year veteran have to take a play off? Kubiak is using this intense internal friction to harden his roster right now because he knows exactly what is waiting for them when the calendar finally turns to the regular season.
And what is waiting for them is an absolute unforgiving gauntlet. While the early weeks of the season against Miami and New Orleans offer a chance to sort of set the tone and get their feet under them, there is a massive, dark cloud looming ominously on the schedule. Week 6 in Buffalo, the approaching storm. Let me tell you, this isn't just a football game. This is a heavyweight title fight set in one of the most hostile, unforgiving environments in all professional sports. Highmark Stadium is a literal nightmare for opposing teams. We are talking about the biting, freezing wind whipping directly off Lake Erie, cutting right through your sideline jackets. We are talking about the deafening, ground-shaking, relentless roar of Bills Mafia, a fan base that absolutely lives to mentally break opposing quarterbacks. And historically, West Coast teams traveling all the way east, losing 3 full hours of their internal body clock just to play in the freezing cold, struggle immensely. By week 6, the honeymoon phase of this new Raiders regime will be completely dead and buried. The internet noise will have faded away, and only the brutal, physical reality of the gridiron will remain. The Raiders will travel to Western New York to face a perennial AFC East juggernaut. This road game is the ultimate litmus test. It is the exact, precise moment where we will finally find out if the culture Clint Kubiak has meticulously built out in the desert can actually withstand the freezing, chaotic reality of Buffalo.
Let's really break down the pieces on the board for this impending war. On one side, you have the Las Vegas Raiders, led by Clint Kubiak, fielding an offense commanded by either the meticulous veteran stability of Kirk Cousins or the wild, obsessive rookie fire of Fernando Mendoza. On the other side, you have the Buffalo Bills, led by their new head coach, Joe Brady, and armed with one of the most terrifying, physically dominant forces in the entire history of the sport, quarterback Josh Allen. Let's just be completely clear about the sheer physical mismatch we are looking at here. Josh Allen is a 6'5", 240-pound cyborg with a literal certified cannon attached to his right shoulder. He doesn't just throw over defenses. He actively hurdles professional linebackers in the open field. He invites physical contact. The Bills have significantly more pure, unadulterated talent spread across their roster. They are the heavier weight class in absolutely every sense of the word. Make no mistake, the Raiders will enter this stadium as massive, heavy underdogs. Every single prognosticator, every talking head in the sports media landscape will fully expect them to be systematically dismantled on national television. But, as we know, games are not won on paper. They are won in the trenches, down in the freezing mud, and they are won in the minds of the men who are calling the plays on the sidelines.
Which brings us to the absolutely critical coaching chess match. And this illustrates exactly where Las Vegas might just have a hidden razor-thin edge. Compare Clint Kubiak against Joe Brady. Now, both of these men are brilliant, highly innovative offensive minds. Both are stepping into a massive, blinding spotlight this season. But Clint Kubiak possesses something Joe Brady does not: a Super Bowl ring. Kubiak has actually stood at the absolute pinnacle of the sport. He understands the immense, suffocating pressure of the ultimate stage, and he brings a proven championship-level pedigree to a Raiders franchise that is absolutely starved for success.
While Josh Allen is vastly more talented than whoever ultimately starts at quarterback for the Raiders, Kubiak has a distinct tactical operational advantage over Brady when it comes down to the smallest, most granular details of play calling. How does a coach with a championship ring script those all-important first 15 plays differently? Kubiak knows exactly how to scheme around his roster's specific deficiencies. He might utilize heavy tight end sets, what we in the football world call 12 personnel, just to keep extra massive blockers on the field and neutralize Buffalo's terrifying game-wrecking edge rushers. He knows how to strictly protect his quarterback, whether it's Cousins or Mendoza, by aggressively controlling the clock, grinding down the defense, and limiting the total number of possessions the Bills get in that hostile environment. This game is going to be an absolute masterclass in tactical play calling and clock management.
So what is the exact formula here? How does a rebuilding team walk straight into a buzzsaw and actually come out alive? Here is the Raiders' grueling, incredibly narrow path to victory in Buffalo. First, they absolutely must survive the crowd. They have to completely silence the noise, execute their complex pre-snap motions flawlessly without a single hitch, and avoid the devastating drive-killing false starts that routinely plague visiting teams in that stadium. Second, and this is arguably the most important point, they must capitalize on Josh Allen's mistakes. Look, Allen is a superhero on the field, but his highly aggressive, gunslinger nature means he is always due for a couple of 50-50 turnover balls every single game. Even under Joe Brady's highly refined system, Allen is going to take massive, high-variance risks. Picture it. Allen gets flushed from the collapsing pocket, he's rolling to his right, and he throws off his back foot across the middle of the field in a sheer desperation heave. That is the exact, fleeting fraction of a second the Las Vegas secondary must be waiting for. They cannot just bat the ball down to the turf. They must take it away. They have to steal those extra possessions. Finally, even if they don't walk away with a win on the final scoreboard, they must prove this new regime can avoid a total embarrassing blowout. They must stand toe-to-toe with a true, unquestioned contender and show the rest of the league that the Raiders are no longer an easy out. They have to prove that Mendoza's manic obsession and Kubiak's unrelenting standard are actually translating to real hard-nosed football.
6. That is the number that should terrify every single person walking the halls of the Raiders facility right now. 6 short weeks. I really want you to think about what that actually means in NFL time. 6 weeks is just 42 days. When you factor in the CBA-mandated off days, the travel schedules, and the light walkthroughs, we are talking about barely a dozen fully padded full-contact practices. That is it. That is the razor-thin, incredibly suffocating timeline Las Vegas has to build offensive momentum, resolve the massive, looming tension in their quarterback room, completely black out the fake news and digital noise, and actually forge themselves into a radically different squad. Barely a dozen padded practices to prepare for the absolute crucible waiting for them in Buffalo. The clock is ticking relentlessly in the background of every single positional meeting, every rep Fernando Mendoza takes, every film session Kirk Cousins leads, every single standard Clint Kubiak ruthlessly enforces. It is all counting down to this one brutal test. In the National Football League, time is the ultimate enemy. It is the one single resource you cannot scheme around, you cannot trade for, and you cannot buy. And right now, the Las Vegas Raiders are in a desperate, breathless race against it.
So the pieces are finally set on the board. The fake rumors and internet noise have been burned away by the desert sun, leaving only the cold, hard, physical reality of professional football. We have a rookie who would rather literally drop dead on the practice field than smile for a corporate sponsor's camera. We have a battle-tested veteran fighting desperately to secure his legacy before his time in this league completely runs out. We have a head coach demanding absolute clinical perfection on every single snap of the ball. And we have an approaching violent storm in Buffalo that will test the very soul and foundation of this entire franchise. So I'm going to leave you with this final, lingering thought as we watch the clock tick down to the start of the 2026 season. Will the Las Vegas Raiders survive the crucible, or will they be completely broken by it? Let me know your prediction down in the comments. Thank you for joining me today on NFL Nexus. Make sure you subscribe to the channel, like this explainer, and comment on what you thought of the breakdown. And please, if you love this content, support the channel by becoming a channel member for more deep dives into the reality of the gridiron. Until next time, keep your eyes on the reality and block out the noise.